Most of the viral content advice you see online was built for creators instead of businesses. And there is a massive difference between these two goals. A creator needs views to survive because their paycheck depends on attention, but your business needs actual sales to stay alive. So when a social media agency pitches you on reach, impressions, and views, they are usually solving their own problem of looking busy rather than solving your problems of finding the customers. Now, chasing views feels productive because you're posting and staying active, which gives the illusion that something important is happening. The reality is that views and buying decisions don't work the same way, and mixing them up is exactly how small businesses lose time, money, and then ultimately confidence in social media. And what if I told you there is a framework that's rooted in over 100 years of buyer psychology that tells you exactly what type of content to make and then why it works? And this method has nothing to do with chasing the algorithm, tips, hacks, tricks, any of those things. But before we get into those details, we have to be clear about why viral model fails most small businesses. Viral content is designed for mass appeal because the wider the audience gets, the better it performs. So that approach works fine if you're selling maybe a cheap product that anyone could buy from anywhere without geographic limits. But that description doesn't fit most small businesses. So if you run a local service, a consulting firm, or even a trades company where trust is a major part of the sale, then mass appeal is going to be working against your interests. You don't need a million people to have a vague idea of who you are when you really only need maybe 30 to 100 people in your specific area to trust you enough to pick up the phone. Views are nothing more than a vanity metric when your business relies on trust instead of high volume. A roofing company based in Phoenix going viral in Tokyo doesn't move the needle for their bottom line. Just like a landscaper with 10,000 followers who don't own a home in his service area, he's built an audience that will never spend a single dollar with him. And I agree, the numbers look impressive on screen, but the bank account is going to be staying empty. When you try to go viral, you're essentially playing a lottery where only maybe 1 in a million pieces of content is going to break through in a meaningful way. I mean, even when a post does blow up, the audience that shows up is usually the wrong one. People watching a funny video about plumbing aren't going to be looking to hire a plumber. It's just not how it works. So they're just killing time before moving on to the next video in their feed. Social media agencies understand that reality, but they focus on views and reach because it's really easy to measure and even easier to manipulate. Telling you they got 50,000 impressions this month sounds like progress, and it's most likely not a lie. It's also not really revenue. These agencies are selling you the specific metric that makes their work look successful rather than the one that grows your business. So this shift, I think, in perspective is the reason why many large brands no longer treat views as the gold standard when they offer sponsorships and brand deals. And the real cost of a bad strategy is not just the agency fee that you pay every month. It's the time you spent approving useless content, the mental energy you burned, maybe second guessing yourself when you could have been building a system that maps to how your customers make buying decisions. Social media is not the problem. And I think businesses that write it off entirely are making a huge mistake. They're kind of overcorrecting. And the real issue is the strategy sitting maybe on top of the platform. And that's exactly what we're going to be fixing today. Section 2, the logic first content model. Marketing research from the last 100 years or so tells us a very simple truth about why people actually buy things. A customer pulls the trigger when they understand exactly what you do and trust you enough to hand over money. So whether you're selling a $20 haircut or a $200,000 construction contract, the decisions always run on those kind of two rails. And before you maybe sit down to create anything, you need to stop thinking about what the algorithm wants and ask maybe one specific question. What does my customer actually need to hear from me to make a buying decision today? I mean, you aren't looking for shares, viral spikes. You're looking for specific information that moves a real person from just maybe knowing your name to picking up the phone, sending a DM. And the best way to do this is to work backwards from the sale, because nobody jumps from discovering you to maybe writing a check in 5 seconds. It happens very rarely. Buyers move through stages where they maybe first realize they have a problem, then they look at their options, and finally they decide who they trust enough to hire. Your content has to meet them at every single one of those steps instead of just shouting for maybe attention at the very beginning. Most businesses make the mistake of only creating content for attention because they just want to be seen. The problem is that attention without trust building content creates creates a funnel with really no bottom, which means people watch your video and leave because they can't find the information they need to move forward. If you don't give them a reason to stay, they will simply find a competitor who did the work to explain things better. Trust isn't some vague feeling that you hope to create. It's a track record you build kind of out in the open. So when a buyer maybe watches 6 of your videos and sees you explain your process honestly, or maybe even handle a tough situation without really any spin, they start to trust you before they ever send that first email. You're essentially asking the questions they were maybe too nervous to ask, but this only works if you stay specific and consistent over maybe a long period of time. There is also a massive piece that most creators skip entirely, and that is how you handle the inbound messages your content generates. You see, when someone watches your video and maybe sends you a DM with a question, that is a high quality lead, and that lead deserves the same respect as a direct phone call to your office. If you wouldn't let your business phone ring for 3 days without picking it up, you can't afford to ignore maybe your inbox for that long either. But before you pour your energy into maybe a new content strategy, make sure you have a system to respond fast and give people a clear next step. I find that the businesses who do the best with social media have these systems already in place, and they treat these DMs, these comments, as actual leads, which is a smart thing to do. Sure, you also have to remember that engagement, entertainment are just tools rather than the kind of end goal for your business. You make a video watchable so your message lands, because people don't want to sit through a boring presentation long enough to be persuaded by your logic. So what do? Use energy and clarity to keep them around, but you got to always remember that the formats exist to serve your argument rather than chasing vanity metrics. And you don't need a massive audience to see a change in your revenue as long as you have the right audience. I mean, having 10 highly qualified people watch every single thing you post is worth significantly more than 10,000 random people who found you through a trending song and have no intention of buying. Section 3. So what to do instead? You need to stop using view counts as your primary metric and start paying maybe attention to trust signals instead. A trust signal is maybe a DM asking about your pricing, a comment from a person in your target market, or maybe even a lead who watched 4 videos in a row before really reaching out. These are the only numbers that actually tell you if your content is doing its job and growing your business. I want you to pull up your last 5 posts right now and look at them objectively. For every single one, ask yourself if that piece of content moved a potential buyer one step closer to making a decision. If it didn't answer a real question or show off your results, then it was just content for its own sake rather than a tool for your business. The viral model isn't just inefficient for your business, it's actually pointed in the wrong direction. You need to start with the buying decision and build your strategy backwards from that point. Keep in mind that every piece of content you create should earn its place by moving a viewer closer to hiring you. If you're stuck on a content question, drop it in the comments, and if you can, make sure you guys subscribe for more.